So it's 1 o'clock, so we'll get started now. So thank you everyone for signing in and attending on this Saturday afternoon. We have put together this fantastic webinar for everyone. You know, a lot of people have been asking me many questions about what they can do, what grants they can apply for, but also on kind of moving forward with the business once we get back to the real world and how we can kind of be more proactive rather than reactive. I think this caught a lot of people by shock, this whole global disaster. So I was speaking with Navin a few weeks back, and he is a master and a genius in what he does in the world. So what I wanted to do is firstly kind of introduce him to everyone, and let me give you a little bit of background about Navin. So he's an angel investor, entrepreneur. He is the lead board person for Skykick, which is a cloud software company, very tech forward. They have over 20,000 clients globally. He's the founder of Innovation Bootcamp. He's got a whole range of accolades and things that I just don't have enough time to go over, but he's worked, he was a partner at Vulcan Capital with Paul Allen, COO of Quickie, and Harvard graduate, Princeton graduate. He's on the board of, I think, over 9 companies right now, ranging from 50 million all the way up to a 2 billion valuation. He's been featured on numerous TV shows, whether it's CNBC, Fox News, and the list just keeps going on. So he's very knowledgeable at what he does, and he can add a lot of value to all of us. So that's kind of why I wanted to invite him on to kind of speak to us and help educate us and help us get better. Navin, do you want to give a little bit of context and background around your story?
Yes. And Casey, if you can try to figure out where to let all these people in. If I look distracted, I'm not distracted. Got my stopwatch over here, letting people in. I'll be monitoring the chat. So like I said before, this is not going to be a 50-minute monologue by me. I'm going to make you guys do some work. So the whole point of this session is, at the end of the session, I want you all to have a four-step crisis leadership plan that you can implement in your business immediately. And by the way, if you don't have a business, if you're a middle manager or if you're a solo entrepreneur, then you are your business, or your team is your business. So when I say business, I mean whatever entity that you care about the most that's not personal, whatever it's bringing you income. This will help no matter what position you're in. And here's why. Here's why this is so important. So if you get this point, I know you'll stay till the end of the webinar and you'll do the work, because how you respond to the crisis will define you. Let me repeat that. How you respond to this crisis will define your career. And the reason why that is the case is because a crisis is the championship game of leadership. How you respond right now, you will remember, your team will remember, your family will remember, your network will remember. We might even remember on this call. So for you, in 5 years, when you're going through your next challenge, or in 3 years when there's another crisis, or AI takes over, or a big competitor comes in, you'll remember how you reacted during today, during this month, which is really the championship game of leadership. We all remember that. You know how deeply you dug in. So that is the why that's so important to get on this call before we even move forward. Because you have to care about what is going to happen. I know you do, because you're on this call. So I commend you for that, for taking the time on a weekend to come and learn about crisis leadership. And really the only question is this: will you rise or will you shrink? Are you going to step up during this crisis? Are you going to grow? Are you going to use this opportunity to learn more? Because we all learn more during challenging times. Or are you going to shrink? Now, we all know the answer. You guys are all going to rise during this crisis and become better leaders, better managers, better founders, better entrepreneurs. That is the goal here. So Casey gave me that very, very generous introduction. This slide is basically, if you didn't know me that well, it's sort of like, why would you spend an hour on the phone with me? You know, I've got this nice fancy bio, but the reason I'm lucky enough to have this is because I've been through so many crises over the last 20 years. I feel like, you know, at a board level, I've seen everything you could see. At 2008, you know, right after 9/11, all these different challenges that happened that gave me the framework that we're going to learn today. But let me tell you a little story about like probably my darkest time as a leader, which was actually when I was operating a Silicon Valley startup called Quickie. By the way, before we get into this, can you guys all see the chat? Casey, can you see the chat? I'm just curious if people can see the chat and it's up and running. Yes, okay. The chat will be active on this call. Raul, thank you. Nima, Mary, Chantel. Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here from Portugal. I appreciate that. So the chat's going to be active because you guys are going to do some work. Not quite yet. I'm going to entertain you with a little story first, but we're going to do a little work. So I would say, you know, among the darkest moments in my career was the story I'm about to tell you, which I was running or operating, I should say, a Silicon Valley startup with my friend Doug. And, you know, we started off great. We had an algorithm that automatically created videos from any type of media. So think about Instagram for video before Instagram had video. Think about Snapchat for video before Snapchat had video. This is like ancient history in the tech world. And things are going super well. We won TechCrunch Disrupt, which if you guys know this, the show Silicon Valley, that's in end of season 1. So that's me hiding behind that big bottle of champagne, bottom right. I'm a lot younger back then. And after we won TechCrunch, we raised $10 million of funding from all these fancy Silicon Valley people, like the founders of Facebook, Savrin from YouTube, all these people. And, you know, it seemed like things were going great. I think you all know how this story is going to go. And we even launched our products on CNN Live. This is Wolf Blitzer's Situation Room. That's not Wolf, but they backed up their truck into our office. But you know that back in those days, a lot of Silicon Valley startups, they just simply didn't have revenue models. So we didn't think we needed a revenue model either. We'll just get bought for a ton of money without it. But the reality is that if you don't have a revenue model, you all know this, eventually things get very tough. So even though we raised $10 million, after about 2 years, we were running out of cash. We burned through almost all that money. And I'm sitting there as the supposedly smart Harvard Business School guy trying to figure out this revenue model, and I have no idea how we're going to do it. So that was a very, very difficult time because like some of you I know from talking to KC, you know, a lot of your businesses might be not generating enough cash, maybe having a liquidity crunch, maybe thinking about firing or furloughing employees. I was in that exact same position with my business partners, and it is such a tough and horrible feeling in that pit of your stomach going to work every day, knowing that this might have to happen. So we came up with like what I can only describe as a crazy crisis leadership plan, which was that we had to lay off half our team. We shut down all our products, all 2 of them actually, because they weren't making money. We couldn't afford them anymore. And then we took all our remaining resources, that time and that money, and applied our technology to an iPhone app. And that iPhone app, the difference between that 3rd product and the first 2 products was that we actually innovated on the 3rd product. And because of that innovation, that iPhone app, when it was launched, generated hundreds of thousands of downloads in just the first few days, which today would be millions of downloads in today's world. And because of that, just 60 days later, maybe 80 days later, Yahoo acquired Quickie for $50 million when we only had like 9 or 10 full-time employees. So that's how quickly you can go from almost being a zero to a hero if you apply crisis leadership and an innovation process to your business. And I can say that because it actually happened. I actually had to go through that. But I do not want any of you guys to go through that. I do not want you to learn the hard way like I had to. I want you to take this plan and apply it immediately. And that's why I wanted to tell you that quick story, because this stuff actually, believe it or not, does work. All right, so first of all, before we get to this, I'll leave this on the screen. Before we get to this, take out your pen. This is a Zoom call so I can see you all. Take out your pen, take out a piece of paper, and you know how important this is right now. You know how important this is for your business. So if you care about your business, just write down 15 seconds or dump it in the chat. Why must I create a crisis leadership plan right now? Why do I care about this crisis? Why must I grow during this crisis? Why must I learn during this crisis? This is your one opportunity to do so. So just take 15 seconds, dump it in the chat, and write down why you're going to learn and grow through this crisis. All right, go. I'm going to monitor the chat to see if you guys are awake. Casey says, so I can be proactive rather than reactive. Excellent. That's a great, great reason. I see some of you guys writing. That's good.
Yeah, and that also goes into the numbers as well, Navin. A lot of what we talk about with our clients is how can you forecast efficiently and look into the future. And I think that combines so well with innovation and coming up with new ideas or kind of pivot in the business, which is what pretty much a lot of businesses have just been forced into doing right now.
Right. No, that's a perfect segue. We got some action in the chat. Raul says to have a plan to succeed. Ben says, so I'm prepared to pivot and innovate when something like this occurs. Again, Ben, you should be my talking points guy. You're like so on point. Nima says, this is an opportunity to grow the exponential jump. The reset button has been hit. Exactly. The funny thing is you're going to see after this plan is that we shouldn't have to wait for a crisis. Mary and Eric and Nima, you know this. We shouldn't have to wait for a crisis to reboot our business. We should be rebooting and innovating our business on a regular basis, which is what I'm seeing in the chat. Excellent. Eric says this will happen again. Well, let's hope not, Eric, but you're probably correct. Excellent job, guys. Excellent job. Chat's blowing up. So here's the 4-step plan. And by the way, I started my career on Wall Street, okay? And I'm only saying that to let you know that if you ever told me I would be giving a presentation to a bunch of 27 or 30 friends, which, by the way, that's a great turnout for just a week's notice, and I had a big heart on a presentation, I'd be like, there's no way I'm going to give a presentation that has a heart on the presentation. But this is the biggest rookie mistake that so many of business leaders I know who are very accomplished make. They start their crisis leadership with clarity, which is the plan. We're going to spend a lot of time on the plan, okay? That target top right, we're going to spend a lot of time on that plan. However, the rookie mistake is starting with that plan. You have to start with a frame of compassion. Even though that may sound a little soft, cheesy, I'm telling you why, and here's why. Because guess what? Your team and your customers, they are hurting personally, right? Just like all of us. I'm worried about my parents. Other people are worried about their grandparents. You're worried about your team. We've got a couple cases of COVID at Skykick. We're worried about those people personally. If you don't literally care about your team, whoa, am I drawing on my own thing here?
Yeah, you're drawing.
That's crazy. I don't even know if I can get that off. So anyway, it is what it is, guys. You guys can. I hope you have the focus to forget about the
Don't worry about
the red lines all over the screen. On the next, I'll try to get that off. So your team and customers are hurting personally. So address their personal challenges before you, boom, crush that one. Before you try to transact with them, right? Because it makes no sense. Your employees are going to be caring about their family and their health first. So you as a leader, because we're all leaders on this call, you have to too. So before you do anything in crisis leadership, make sure you adopt the personal perspectives of your employees and your customers. They're worried about their family and friends and their financial situations first before they're worried about your business. Cool? Again, quick 20-second exercise. You can dump it in the chat. And as simple as this sounds, just doing this little exercise before you do your crisis leadership plan will put your mind in the right frame to make better decisions. So you see the icons on the right: team, customers, partners, investors. Probably choose your team or your customers. Pick one of those two and just write down, what are they feeling? How can I help? Because that's why we're here. Casey cared about his network, so he was wondering how you guys are feeling and how can he help? And that's why we're all here. 15 seconds in the chat while I figure out how to erase this red line. Go. Unsure, scared, uncertainty, all good thoughts.
Yeah, I think people tend to default to a state of like scarcity and worrying about the worst case scenarios when things like this occur. So in order to move past that and realize we're all human beings at the end of the day, how can we help each other grow and develop and kind of push through this together, I think are some key elements here.
Eric says, team scared, customer stressed. Dr. S says, fear, anger, regret, acceptance. Customers in panic, unknown valuation. Yeah, Eric, a lot of these Airbnb had to raise like, what, was it $1 billion or $2 billion of debt and equity at a valuation half approximately as before. Dr. S says, similar stages of grief. Excellent. Good job, guys. You guys are quicker than 15 seconds. So that is what folks are feeling. So if you don't, that's the biggest rookie mistake right there. So you guys nailed the biggest rookie mistake, which is just to work on business during a time of a global personal crisis, when people are cared about their families and their own health and their own lives, right? We're all going to know someone that's going to be unfortunately taken down by COVID. That's just a fact with the numbers. And that's what you got to focus on as a leader before you do this step. And this step is clarity. So here's what we're going to do. If you haven't got your pen out, get it out right now. If you don't have a crisis leadership plan already, then this is probably going to be the most important 45 minutes of the next 45 days you spend, because how can you be in a crisis as a leader without a crisis leadership plan? So that's okay. That is okay. We're going to jump in, make a quick outline for everyone on the phone in real time right now. So let me just set the stage here. Your crisis or crisis management plan, since we're managers too, your crisis management plan is going to evolve through phases. What does that mean? That simply means it's going to evolve through milestones in time, which I'll show you on the next slide. And for each point in time, you're going to forecast different scenarios that may or may not happen. That way, you are prepared in multiple states of the world. So as a leader, you forecast scenarios. They may not all happen. They're not all going to happen. You may be wrong, but at least you've thought about it in a very organized and logical fashion before anything happens, and you can be confident later with your team. And then finally, you're going to create action scenarios, action items at each scenario, at each point in time. And we're going to hit this. I'm going to hit you guys again in a different way. So phases are simply milestones that occur over time. This is an example I used literally for our company Skykick, where the management has just been killing it over there, because they had a crisis leadership plan even before Amazon or Microsoft, who were way ahead of the game, even before those companies in Seattle shut down their offices. We had our whole plan laid out. I think we had like 10 scenarios. I do not recommend doing 10 scenarios, by the way, just one or two for each phase. But because of that, we were so prepared with our team before any of this happened. So kudos to our team over in Seattle. So as you can see, let's just focus on phase 2, so we can just pick one point, and let me explain that, and then it'll apply obviously for the other phases as well. I'm just making an assumption. If you did this plan, a few weeks ago, phase 2 would have been a milestone, and that milestone is the following: 45 days pass since working from home. That's it. I just made that up, right? As a leader, you can make up whatever you want. Let's just assume that is a good milestone to use, and we'll use that for this example today. But of course, after we're done with this webinar, you can use any milestone you want. So then for phase 2, you have to choose or assume certain sets of assumptions, which again, as a leader for your specific business, you're going to make up on your own. Again, I'm just giving you examples for what you could use. So let's say your phase 2 is 45 days of working from home. Scenario 1 could be revenues are on plan. That's sort of a good scenario. Scenario 2 could be revenues are down 20%. Very simple, but very different realities, right? You're going to take very different actions, especially if you're in a low margin business. Revenues down 20% means your net income could be down by 50 or 60%. Casey knows that stuff better than I do. So it's like choosing different scenarios that apply to your business. By the way, it doesn't have to just be revenues. Could be, and I'll show you in the next couple pages, it could be like team morale is up, team morale is down. We have 3 COVID cases. What do you do then, right? Different situations. Aha. And here we've combined the phases and the scenario. So I didn't repeat what phase 2 is, because they're just would have been a messy slide. But remember, phase 2, in the middle of that slide, 45 days pass since working from home. So think about what that means. Not just what the words are. What is the meaning of that? Your team has been away from each other for 45 days, 6 weeks. That's a long time. So put yourself in that frame, which, by the way, that's going to be 3 weeks from now, basically. And what is happening? What's happening to your customers, your team? Are people sick? So all those things, think about that and then come up with your scenarios. I just made it very simple for this webinar. Middle column, phase 2, scenario 1, revenues flat or up. That's sort of a good scenario. Scenario 2, middle column, revenues down. Before we get to that, I'd like you to do the exact same thing. Just to make sure we're all on the same page for this example, let's assume we're in phase 2. Again, going back 2 slides, 45 days pass since work from home, which for most of you is like 3 or 4 weeks from now. So in 3 or 4 weeks from now, phase 2, what scenario are you in? Are revenues up? Are revenues down? Team morale up? Team morale down? Should you assume you have 5 cases? You have no cases? These are just made up assumptions like you would in any financial model, which again, Casey knows better than me. But I want you to forecast that right now, and then we'll talk about action items in each of those scenarios. So jump in the chat. I'm going to give you 60 seconds for this because this usually takes a lot longer. But think about a couple scenarios that your business could be in the next 3 or 4 weeks from today. Get out your pens and go. I wish I had some theme music in the background, Casey. I need a DJ for the next webinar.
Yeah, for the next one, I think that's a great idea.
I'm watching the chat since it was blown up before. If anyone has any scenarios, Casey says, revenue is up and economy slowly reopening. That is a very happy one, my man. I sure hope it's going to happen. Yeah. I'm in Park City, Utah, and Utah is going to open, I think, before any other state. Well, I guess before any other state that actually closed. We're going to open on May 1st. So that's good for the small businesses here.
Is it still snowing out there, or is it kind of thawed out now?
It's thawed out, but it's beautiful and sunny. Mr. and Mrs. Didi, just welcome to the call. We're talking about what scenarios could occur in 3 to 4 weeks. Could be anything you want. Revenues, morale, COVID, customer issues, like anything you want. Distribution issues. Maybe you got stuff coming in from China that you don't want anymore. Eric says sales flat, collections low, morale flat but hopeful. I think that seems like a very realistic scenario. Eric, come up with a second scenario as well, my friend. Sarah says, brick and mortar biz starts at half capacity. Sarah, I think that's exactly right. I think it's what's going to happen and ramps over 3 months. Revenue's down 30%. Excellent, Sarah. Very specific. Nima says, we only see 50% of our usual load of clients due to social distancing. Yeah, unfortunately, that sounds right. That's what I'm assuming for all restaurants, right? Because you're not going to be able to have full capacity restaurants in states that are opening smartly. Yes. Production collections low. Anyone in real estate, Kaivan knows collections are super low. So spot on that, you know. And I appreciate, Casey, these obviously are friends of yours because they're not just worried about their income statement, they're worried about their balance sheet. I love it, right?
Yeah, the smart group of people.
This is a smart group of people. Like half of the comments are about working capital, which is, you know, not what you normally see. Too many. There's actually too many comments for me to read them all. Excellent. I'm reading them so other people can just get some ideas. But
and just to remind people, we're doing a Q&A at the end, so you will get a chance to ask questions directly. But you can also leave them in the chat as well. I'm jotting some down.
Eric is actually listening to me. I love Eric. He has a second scenario, overachiever, Mr. Eric Johnson. Sales 40% down, revenues flat, morale bad due to time reductions. Yeah, exactly. So that's a scenario, a very different scenario, Eric, that you'll have to plan for. Excellent work, guys. Excellent work. And, you know, there's ideas in the chat, but I'm sure you have to figure it out for your own business with your team. So now what I want you to do, which I usually don't do on these calls because people get all confused, but this is obviously a pretty sophisticated group. So what I'd like to do is pick one of the scenarios that you outlined. It doesn't matter which one. Scenario one, maybe you only outline one. That's fine too. For that scenario, I just want you to write down 3 action items you're going to take. So Eric, if your sales are down 40% and morale is bad due to time reductions, what are 3 actions you're going to take? Are you going to have to furlough some people? Or are you going to cut expenses? Are you going to not pay your payables because you just can't? What are you going to do for morale? Just pick 3 things. Could be anything. Could be something totally different than the scenario you wrote down. But 3 action items for one of your scenarios. Good. The chat's already doing it. Ready? I don't even have to say go, Casey. They're already on it. Nima says,
yeah, they know what's up.
Clients to paying appointments to raise revenue. Makes perfect sense, right? I think Nima said that she thought it would be a 50% reduction in her capacity. So now she's only going to have customers paying cash coming in, I believe is what that means.
Yeah, Nima's a male, by the way.
Oh, sorry. I'm gonna get punched in the face by the paying clients of Nima, but that's okay. He doesn't mind. I'm in the car. Okay, good. Anyone else? KC, what about your business, man? Like, what are 3 things you're taking what are 3 actions you're taking for your customers? And by the way, it doesn't have to be scenario based. We're going to go over some things at the end to manage mindset, which in any scenario you want to be doing.
For us, it's all about value right now, Navin.
I love that.
I think with the case of everyone kind of now looking more closer at the numbers and different scenarios, it plays into our CFO side of the business, where everyone's wanting to dig into cash flow, balance sheets, and really trim the fat of the business so that they can survive during this time. But more importantly, as we kind of flip to reopening, we'll then look at the more innovative measures and kind of what we can do, scenario planning, and really add value to people so they understand what's going on in the cash flow of their business. I think a lot of business owners were kind of living well and not really forced to think about that, whereas now
they are.
Yeah.
And Casey, that's a perfect example of exactly what I talked about with the quickie example, which I didn't have all the time to go through that story. It's kind of a fun story. But basically the point was that you need to prepare for this crisis before the next crisis.
Yeah.
Right? Not you. I'm not yelling at everybody on the phone, but the proverbial you, right? Me or Casey as well. You got to have your business in an innovation mindset and process. So when crises happen, which by the way, as we all know, whether you believe in markets being more volatile, whether you believe in global warming or viruses or whatever you believe in, we all know the world is getting way, way more volatile and you can't predict this stuff. So your business has to be so agile. And what Casey was talking about, if I may paraphrase you, Casey, was financial agility specifically, right? And that's what you're helping. I know you've helped me a lot with advice in the past. Dr. Cam says, checking in with our staff and ease their mindset regarding their job security. Excellent, Cam. That's so important, especially in your business, because your team, they're your eyes and ears for your clients. You're such a customer service business. So making sure your staff is happy and feels valued is so important. I can't read all the good comments here. I wanted to read Eric, though, because Eric was overachieving before, so I want to acknowledge him. Scenario 2, Eric says, reduction of hourly labor per week, no layoff. Love that. Pivot on sales, core capability of the company, and morale starts to come up. Excellent. Yeah, perfect. We got a lot of action items in the chat. Nima says, decrease salaries. What do you think of that? Nima, a lot of companies out there, and Casey probably has data on this. I don't have data on this, but anecdotally, you're seeing senior management teams across the board take 25% haircuts, and you're seeing
some even more than that.
Salary deferrals as well. So, you get your salary, but you may get it in 2021 for 2020.
Yeah. I think the CEO of Delta was the biggest one, one of the biggest ones. He just deferred his salary completely, I think, so that to try to keep the rest of his staff on for longer, which is a great leadership move from him.
Right. I think about that as, Casey, we could do a whole thing about financial flexibility. We're talking about innovation flexibility right now, but part of it is obviously the process makes your financials more flexible, but some of the things like you said, that's so helpful. Maybe in a follow-up, we could send an email out and just give, 5 or 10 ideas about that, because I think that's so important for small business right now. Okay, everyone. Great job. Excellent job. And I'm just going to do a quick time check here. Not because I don't love you, but Casey, you're doing a good job because we had 26 people start the call and 26 people are here 30 minutes in, which is a great sign that we're actually doing something right. So if you've done everything we've done for the last 15 minutes, eventually, not right now, but after this call, you're going to have a little chart that looks like this. And this is probably going to end up being one of your favorite slides for the next 30, 60, or 90 days, because as a leader, you're going to have a map of the possible scenarios that can happen over different phases in the crisis. So when phase 3 comes, and phase 3 for me is when people come back to work, right? You're going to have all your action items for when people come back to work in phase 3. We just talked about, I don't want to confuse anyone. We talked about phase 2 right now, but I'm just moving on to phase 3 for a second. If your phase 3 was people come back into the office, for any scenario, revenues up, revenues down, morale up, morale down, you're going to have your action items already laid out. And you're going to be so far ahead of the curve. And by the way, when you have to change stuff, it's going to be easy because you're going to have this sort of menu of options, right? Because you already thought through 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 different scenarios. There are going to be a lot of overlap, right? There's going to be many scenarios where revenues are flat. There's going to be many scenarios, Eric, where revenues are down 40%, and then different morale scenarios on top of that, right? But just the act of thinking through these is going to make you such a clearer and more confident leader. And remember, we're not going to make the rookie mistake though, right? We know that you start with, what do we start with, guys? We start with compassion first, and then we do clarity. Just wanted to refresh that, right? The perspective is compassion, like Dr. Cam said in his chat. He wants to ease the minds of his employees. If he didn't have compassion in his heart before he did it, he may not have remembered to do that because it's a crisis time. We're worried about our business, right? Eric says, be human, it's critical. Could not agree more. And it's just always a good reminder because we all forget, right? We all forget. We're all tied up in our own worlds. We all forget. So we just got to, remember to come from that perspective. Okay. And now communication. Now we're all told as leaders that we got to communicate. We got to communicate. We got to be transparent. We got to be objective, all this stuff. And that's all true. But another big rookie mistake is communicating first. What happens if you communicate without compassion? What happens if you communicate without a plan? Is that leadership? Yeah, maybe it's leadership with the lowercase l, right? Little tiny letters. But if you want to be big, bold leadership, all caps, communication actually comes third. And how can communication come third? How can that come third, Casey, when everyone's asking us questions? All your team's asking questions, all your customers ask questions, because you were prepared before they even got to you, right? You did the compassion, you did the clarity, and now when you communicate, bullet number 1 on the screen, communicate after your crisis management plan is complete. And the only way you can do that is to be ahead of the curve, not reacting in behind it. And that's exactly why you're on this call, right? You're on this call because if you didn't have a crisis management plan, you will have one at the end of this call. So then you can be transparent and clear because you've thought through the different scenarios, and people are going to feel that, right? Your team's smart. Your customers are smart. They wouldn't be your customers and team if they weren't smart. So they're going to know if you have thought through your plan, and they're going to ask you questions, and you're going to give them a transparent action, and you're going to say, look, if revenues are down 20%, head of HR, this is what we're going to do. If morale's down, head of HR, this is what we're going to do. Whatever it is, you're going to seem like you really had a thought out plan. You know why? Because you did. This is the next third bullet is key. Your written and verbal communication has to come, if at all possible, from the founder and CEO. If you're not the founder and CEO and you run a big team, that's okay. Maybe you can get them to do it. Maybe they already are, and that's great. But then if you're the leader of that team, it has to come from you. You're seeing it online. I'm getting emails, as you know, Casey just mentioned the head of Delta. He's sending emails to all his customers, right? The head of Marriott's doing an amazing job sending emails to all and video emails to customers and like 90,000 employees or whatever they have. So the written and verbal communication comes from the founder and CEO. Why? Because in a crisis, we want to be reaffirmed by leaders. We're all, I go to New York, 2-3 months a year. I'm not Googling what de Blasio is saying. I want to know from Governor Cuomo what's happening in New York, right? I want to know from Governor Newsom what's happening in California. And yes, I want to know from President Trump what he's saying too. You want to know from the highest level of people for whatever the company or entity is, whether it's a state or a company or a country, you want to know what the leader's saying during a crisis, right? This is that time when taking that leadership position is so, so important. And number 4, and we could probably do a whole webinar on communication styles, right? But we're not going to. But number 4 is key too. For those of you with bigger companies, like, Skykick has about 250 people located in 5 offices around the world. We prepared our senior leaders for the frequently asked questions that are going to happen. How long do you think it's going to take for questions to happen when you send out that first email about the crisis? What, 4 nanoseconds, right? So your human resources people or your managers, whoever's relevant for your team, I'm not singling out 1 or 2 people, but whoever's relevant for your team, they need to be part of this communication strategy and part of the CMP strategy so they can answer smart questions when you as a leader send out that email, okay? So number 1, start with compassion, always gonna repeat. Number 2, get your plan together. And when you have your plan together, then, and only then, do you communicate, because then you're active and proactive, you're not reactive. Because man, this crisis is moving so fast. If you're reactive, I mean, you're gonna be, like one of those things when you're a kid and you just got a whack-a-mole, right? Aren't they called like whack-a-mole or something? That's gonna be you. You don't wanna be the mole in the whack-a-mole, okay, if that's a good analogy. You wanna be proactive and thoughtful as a leader. Your team's gonna know, and your customers are gonna know too. I know that, we have 20,000 business customers around the world. Of course they're calling us to see what's going on, but our team was prepared, and so we're ready to make, and this is the other thing I didn't put in this slide deck at all, but this is such a great time to actually strengthen, not maintain, but strengthen your customer relationships. Why? Because you're going to be seen as compassionate. You're going to be seen as a thoughtful leader. You're going to tell your customers about what you're doing in your business. They're going to adopt some of those strategies. It may have nothing to do with selling anything to your customer. You're just checking in on them, making them okay, providing them resources. Hell, maybe providing them a webinar replay of this webinar, Casey, so they can have their own crisis management plan.
And I will share the link with everyone. I think that's a really good point, Navin. And one of the things that a lot of my clients are doing is care packages to help support their networks and their communities.
Wow, that's great.
In whichever way, shape, or form that looks like. Some people are giving away free products or free supplies, just whatever they can do that's relevant to help in their inner circle and their community.
Right, and we've all been doing the same thing on our side as best we can. Can't take care of everyone, but you can definitely start somewhere. And I know a lot of you have, by the way. I know a lot of you have. Dr. Cam reached out to me last week to check on me, how I'm doing. Certainty. Okay, here's rookie mistake number 3, which none of you are going to make, which is that a lot of folks think in a time of crisis, we watch a lot of movies, right? We watch, Braveheart, whatever. We all watch all these movies, Avenger movies I've been watching on quarantine. And you always see the leader as so damn certain with the plan. But what happens if you're a leader that leads with ego? That's a big no-no. The way you actually generate certainty is by following this 4-step plan. Start with compassion, have an actual CMP, have that clarity, proper communication action items, proper communication. You're gonna have to earn your certainty, folks. You may be a confident person, I'm sure most of you are, but you gotta earn your certainty in a crisis. It's called a crisis for a reason. It's hard, it's challenging, it's okay to mess up, but you're gonna earn that certainty. And here, just to double down on this one, wisdom and experience is greater than ego, right? Ego is not gonna carry us through it. Overconfidence is not gonna carry us through this. Self-awareness is gonna help. Having some wisdom in previous crises is gonna help. Have some experience with this 4-step plan or whatever plan you wanna use. You don't have to use my plan, but some experience with having a crisis management plan is going to be so much more powerful than just trying to make up for it with a little bit overconfidence. Eric says, do not be afraid to exhibit personal vulnerability. I agree, Eric. This is that time where you say, hey, I'm scared for what my parents are, it's going to happen to them, or for my own health or my kids or whatever. That's going to go a long way in strengthening those relationships. Here's another slide I put in. I don't know, Casey. I had this in the last 3 webinars I did, but maybe it's for you, Casey, because you're a great advisor to me. Do you have the right advisors? And here's a little bullet. If an advisor did not tell you about COVID, you might need better advisors. I should put more advisors, maybe not better, because better is a little judgmental, but you know what I mean. Hopefully someone told you about COVID. For my company, Skykick, I told them about COVID, and one of my high-level buddies told me about COVID. So I was fortunate to have someone who told me about COVID a month in advance. I got my family prepared. We didn't know if it was going to happen or not, but then we got Skykick prepared as well. So they were ready a solid 2 weeks before the crisis. So just a great time to remind yourself about who your advisors are. It's just a good opportunity to to remind yourself who those people are and do you have the right advisors to deal with a crisis. This is when you need your advisors, folks. Aha. And now we get to mindset, because remember, you got to earn your mindset. Compassion, clarity, communication equals that certainty. And look, we're human. We're human. I didn't wake up all jacked up and excited like this every morning. You guys see it on my Instagram, Casey. I wake up, and this doesn't make me like some big genius. I just have a good routine. I meditate, did my yoga stretching this morning, did some breathing exercises, which actually help your immunity, had my protein shake, got outside a little bit, called my 7-year-old nephew. He was too busy to pick up, unfortunately. Go through my routine in the morning. As soon as I'm done here today with you guys, I'm going to go on a nature walk outside. I'm going to work out, right? So every day I'm doing 4, 5, 6, 7 things. They don't take that long, maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour, to make sure I'm in the right mindset. If I have to train folks or have to coach folks, I'm just in a good state of mind, right? I'm feeling good. I'm not thinking about the crisis or what's going on CNBC or Fox News. I'm focused on you because I got my mind in the right place prior. So here's just some simple examples. This is actually for your team, and then we'll get to you on the next slide. And you're going to get a replay. You don't need to write this down, but I would love if you wrote down one thing that you can do right now to manage your mindset. Actually, give me 30 seconds. Let me get to the next slide, and then we'll do that. So ramp up the check-ins. Ramp up the virtual one-on-ones with your team, like Dr. Cam was saying in the chat. Virtual happy hours. I've had 3 virtual happy hours this week, some personal, some professional. It keeps people engaged. It keeps people interested. It's not the same as drinking with your friends, right? Or eating dinner with your friends, but it makes you feel connected. It doesn't make you feel alone. You feel connected to your team. Daily gratitude at the beginning of every meeting. I love that. That's great. That's a very, mindful way to do it. Alsop. I'm not sure what your actual name is, but you got a great tagline. And then finally, let's talk about your own mindset as a leader. Consistent morning routines. This is so key. It only takes 15 to 20 minutes in the morning to be 20% more productive all day long. By the way, if you're about 40 years old, I'm a little older than that, but if you're about 40 years old and you're going to live till 80, 20% of 40 years is 10 more years of time. So if you spend 20 minutes in the morning or 30 minutes in the morning on your morning routine, and you're a 40-year-old person, you're literally going to generate 10 more years of productivity over your life. As crazy as that sounds, it's really true. I bet you Tony Robbins or Garrett White or any of these self-help gurus would probably say it's exponentially more than that. I personally think it probably is productive when you have great morning routines. But at least 20%, that's going to go a long way. I call this thing proactive nutrition. I haven't heard it called that before, but all it means is that choose what you're going to eat the night before in the morning. I don't care if you're going to eat 25 pancakes. Just be proactive about what you're going to eat. If you're intermittent fasting, that means you're fasting. If you're doing a protein shake, you're doing a protein shake. If you're like me and you're taking 25 supplements, have those laid out the day before, right? Whatever it is, you are proactive. You are in control of your nutrition. Since we're all living next to our refrigerators right now, you're in control of your nutrition. Your daily workout or stretching or yoga, mental preparation, journaling, meditation, educational books. Just in this one slide, there's like each of those bullets has a couple things. There's 10 things you can do every single day that's going to improve your mindset. So here's what I want you to do. This is interactive, right? You're not on vacation right now. This is interactive. So I want you to write down in the chat 2 things that you can do. 1 thing for yourself and 1 thing for your team that you can do to improve your mindset. On the thing for yourself, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to do this. On the thing for yourself, it may only take 3 to 5 minutes. Like meditation could be 5 minutes, but it's going to change the rest of your day. So please, for yourself, write down 1 thing in the chat you're going to add to your morning routine, and then 1 thing you're going to do for your team each and every week to keep their mentality. All right, go. I'm going to get some water, guys. Stay hydrated. I'll be right back in 30 seconds.
I see a lot of people putting meditation down. So some good apps for that could be Headspace, and I'm sure there's a whole host of of other good free apps, but I use Headspace a lot for meditating. Navin, do you recommend any certain apps for guided meditation?
I think Calm and Headspace both have like 100 million users, so it's hard to argue with that kind of engagement. Personally, I like Dr. Joe Dispenza, which we can pump in the chat too. Tony Robbins has some great meditations on YouTube that are 15 minutes, 5 minutes. You can use those. So any of those. But by the way, if you don't meditate, if you close your eyes for 5 minutes and think about baseball or the fact that there's going to be no baseball, that counts. Start somewhere. Don't make meditation this big hurdle that you got to be like the Buddha on day one. Sarah says Deepak Chopra. Yeah, Deepak Chopra is seriously a master. So, and I'm sure Oprah has great meditations too, like you said. Kamal says, I find one way to contribute to the frontline workers like my wife. Wow, well, hard to argue with that bullet point. I need to add that to my next presentation, Kamal. That's a good one. Read Richard Rohr every morning. I haven't done that, but I'll check that out too. Vikram says, exercise. Check in with them. Positive thoughts. Excellent. I mean, Casey, everyone in this chat group is basically ahead of 90% of the population of leaders because, you know, as simple as this stuff sounds, most people aren't doing that much. Team watching Cardone University for motivation and direction. Yes, definitely. He's definitely very, very motivating. Insight timer. For me, quiet time for thinking. For the team, more one-on-one check-ins. Absolutely. Agree with all of that. And yeah, you know, make it tailored to yourself, right? If you're not a meditator, maybe it's more of a workout. You can get to meditation later. Whatever it happens to be for you. Excellent job, guys. And yeah, I mean, and that's what you get. When you get compassion, clarity, and communication, you get that certainty. And, you know, here's the thing. During this crisis, this is not the last crisis. So one of the things I've been telling folks is that, hey, we got to get ready for the next crisis before the next crisis. Because, you know, one of the things I teach, and Casey knows about this, because, I mean, Casey, you take yourself on mute because you got a lot to add this because you're actually going to be in the next Innovation Bootcamp. One of the things I talk about is that in this situation, the world changed overnight. The world changed overnight. And the question is, can your business adapt that fast? But do you know how? And will you? And what I've been trying to stress the last 2 or 3 years for small businesses is that the world is changing overnight every single day, right? The crisis just gave us a very tangible example, but you know how exponential trends are, Casey. They go like this, and then all of a sudden, the world changes overnight, which is why I teach also the innovation process, because it's like, you don't want to have to wait for the next crisis to be innovative.
So why don't we segue into that? Why don't you tell us a little bit more about why innovation is so important right now?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just so frustrating to see so many small businesses suffering when they honestly don't have to, you know, because now we're on the left side of this pie chart. You know, I think in Chinese, crisis means opportunity is like the same word, right? Now we're on the left side where it's crisis management. But as soon as this crisis is over, if you all go back to sleep, then what do we learn from this thing, right? The next step is creating a system of innovation in your business so you're flexible and you can adapt for the next crisis. Because guess what? We all know it. We're all going to sit here in 2 years and be like, wow, the world changed overnight again. The question is, the next time, please make sure, whether it's me or someone else, it doesn't matter if it's me, just make sure your business has, that you as a leader are educated properly in innovation, which by the way, 99% of business leaders are not. It's pretty much only Silicon Valley learning by doing that are educated, but make sure you're educated and experienced and have a systematized innovation process that can inoculate your business for the next crisis. And that's what's so frustrating. I mean, Casey knows, like, because you're taking it. It's like, this is what I teach, guys. I mean, this is basically what I teach for the last 2 or 3 years. So I'll just tell you really quick. You know, you got to manage your mindset. You got to recharge your company culture. You got to crisis manage like a pro, which is why you're here today. And you really have to recreate, as hard as it sounds, you got to recreate your value proposition for the new world. Because guess what? The world ain't going back to what it was before. This is a new normal that is here. Casey, jump in.
Yeah, so no, that makes perfect sense, and I'm really excited to do the next. I think the next class is fully booked, right? But the one after that,
the next one is subscribed to. Yeah, so basically, I'll just tell you guys, I teach something called Innovation Bootcamp. And that basically allows you to reboot your business or recharge your business, and basically teaches you how to adapt your business in real time. And I've been teaching it as some testimony. These slides weren't actually for you guys, but I just left them in here. But I'm basically teaching this thing, Innovation Bootcamp, online. I used to do it only for Fortune 100 companies. And this is sort of a little bit of a sizzle. So my apologies, but this was in there. I mean, Deutsche Bank is compensating 6 figures for a 6-person in-person workshop with me. And my keynote fee is $15,000. The keynote for Google last year, Microsoft, I headlined their whole country of Sweden conference the year before. And the reason why I don't do that anymore is very simple. It's very, very simple. Small businesses right now in America are so, I don't want to drop the F-bomb, but are so screwed right now.
Yeah.
So screwed. And it was great for me to go into a big, 1,000-person conference and give a speech, and I feel good. But ultimately, like, there's no emotional connection there, right? And I really want to make this accessible to everyone on this call. If you want, this is just extra. If you want, make it accessible so you can actually learn how to innovate your business. I mean, Casey, maybe just tell them why you're actually going to take this next step with me.
Yeah, so for me, it's about learning how I can add more value to my clients. So we deal with between 30 and 50 clients at any one time. That fluctuates, obviously, with what's going on. But generally speaking, they all have different needs and they all have good points and bad points. And from a financial aspect, we can pretty much standardize that side of their business very easily and help them scale that. But we want to learn to add more value to them. So we're a finance firm and we aren't the most innovative, although a lot more than the regular finance firms. But if we can improve in this area and learn more innovation and then help our clients in that area or lead them into kind of your boot camp or other people's courses and things of that nature, we just ultimately want to, one, develop our own company better, but then also be able to share that with other companies and our clients and ultimately add more value. I think that's what it all boils down to for us.
That's perfect. Well, Casey, I'm super excited to have you as part of Innovation Bootcamp. This is the last I'm going to say about it, and I want to take questions in the chat. But basically, because Casey asked me, I reserved 3 seats for the next bootcamp, which unfortunately, cohort 2 is sold out, but cohort 3 starts May 19th, and I have 3 seats for the 30 people or so reserved for the next 2 days for the bootcamp. And basically, here's what the deal is. The deal is you get 6 direct trainings with me, just like this one, and 20 extremely high quality videos that I produced a few months ago to teach you the concept, the mindset, and the process of innovation. But for my private equity days, I only want to win when you win. In private equity, you take a carried interest. So you have a 20% profit sharing in everything we did with Mr. Paul Allen. So you only get paid when your investors win. Same thing here. It's a $3,000 course, but I only want to take $1,000 up front and $2,000 you compensate me only after you receive $10,000 in business value. That's on your honor. There's no contracts. I don't want any equity, but I only want to work with good people, and Casey only has good people.
That's a very innovative way to price things, right?
Yeah, and also it also weeds out people that are just going to take the course and not perform. Because I want people to perform in the course. I don't want them to take the course and not get anything out of it. That doesn't do anything for anyone. I'll just give you a couple testimonials and we'll go to questions. These are from cohort 1. One gentleman, Nick in the UK, it says it's going to 3x to 5x his business. Daryl, who lives in Utah here, said that plan for crisis leadership was worth $50,000 to his business. And Josh, one of my good buddies, Josh now, he tripled his cash. He tripled Casey's liquidity in 6 weeks with some of the simple, basically the simple process I gave him. So if you're interested in learning more, I can send you a little more. Just type in yes in the chat, and then I'll once someone on my team will email you something. But let's go from that and take some questions.
And yeah, anyone, if you have any questions, now's a good time to put them into the chat as well.
Kamal, thanks for saying yes. I will send you some more info. Raul, thanks for saying yes as well. Casey, you don't have to say yes. You already said yes, bro. But thanks for the yes. I'll send you guys all stuff probably Sunday or Monday from someone on my team. Eric says, yes. There's way too many yeses here, but that's very kind. Will someone please ask a question if you'd like? If we covered everything and we overperformed, that's great too. Or we can talk about something else altogether.
Well, we can recap and just...
Yeah, let's do it.
So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? You can share some of your social media links or your website.
If you want to see me, I'm going to take you guys out. I'm going to give you a little behind the scenes. If you want to see me doing ridiculous things on my Instagram for fun, like, for example, this is my side yard here. You can see this, KC. This is my ice tub. Actually, the ice just melted, but there's one piece of ice left. If you want to see me get into ice tubs and work on my mindset, if you want to see me do meditation webinars or mindset webinars or other stuff like this that I do on IG Live, add me on @DreamNavin. I promise you I'm pretty entertaining on Instagram.
He's very entertaining, and we'll send you guys that his social media link in an email as well.
It's just fun stuff, but a lot of it is mindset. A lot of the mindset stuff I hit every single day on my social media, and I think that's what people like. I do entrepreneurship stuff as well, and you can just DM me there if you have a question. But yeah, I love hitting mindset because look, you guys are all leaders on this phone. By the way, KC, I love this group. We had one person had to leave for some reason. She texted me on the messages, but 25 people on the call an hour later. Either we're really handsome, or that's less likely, or we did the right thing here. We just have a good.
Both. Let's go with both.
Let's go with both. Dr. Cam says, how do you feel about digital marketing ad campaigns right now? Dr. Cam, great question. I was talking with one of the Warrior guys about this yesterday, who's an expert on this. Eric says, a follower of Wim Hof. Yes, I am. Not a hardcore follower, but definitely a follower. So Dr. Cam, here's what I would say. Number one, well, here's a fact. Guys, did you know that right now, like buying engagement on Facebook is like the cheapest level it's been in forever? This is something that I would never have known, except I have a team that told me this, which basically because a lot of the big ad budgets have been pulled in, right? They're not spending money. It's an exponential drop in Facebook ad spending. So if you have money to spend on marketing right now, you're probably, depends on your, it's very specific, right? But for example, my guy told me that stuff that would be priced at X, being priced at 5% of X right now. Now, I'm sure that's not going to be the case for every single market and customer, but because all the big companies are pulling back, as a small company, if you're spending $1,000, $10,000 on your ads, you're going to get like so much more bang for your buck, which I thought was super interesting. I would have thought since everyone's home, it might have been more expensive, but it makes sense. If ad budgets have been like cut to zero by the big companies for small businesses, this is a great time. Even if you're doing stuff like buying likes, you don't have much money. If that's what you want to do, go ahead and do that.
There's always opportunity there, right?
Huge opportunity there. Huge opportunity there. The other thing I will say, Cam, is that this is a great time, and Cam is one of the most compassionate guys we know, KC. Yeah. He would never make this mistake. But when you are selling stuff, digital marketing online, make sure you are not tone deaf, right? Because being super, super salesy that is a big no-no right now. A lot of people have you heard about all these celebrities getting so much heat for their, their Instagrams because they're posting from their pool or wherever they are, right? They're like, oh my God, social distancing, it's so hard. But, half of America, doesn't make enough money to pay taxes. Those people are really suffering. So the influencers are getting all this heat. Don't make the same mistakes that the influencers are making, folks. Be very compassionate and careful in your communication. By the way, your communication, of course, includes marketing, right? Just your cold traffic, your ads. So be mindful of that compassion in everything you do right now. It is such a sensitive time. Be very careful. I got to think about this every day. I'm not an expert on this. I forget too, right? And be very, very careful.
I think there's a couple of other questions. Have you still got?
I was getting all fired up. So please, Casey, if you want to pick the question, I'm happy to jump in.
Got it. Kamal's got one there. Product is great, purpose-driven and timely. I'm all in. 1% is concerned with biting off too much. So what would you say to people that think they're biting off too much to handle right now?
This is a time where everyone is biting off more than they can chew. right? This is that growth time. I'm not going to tell anyone what to do in terms of what your personal limit is, but I can tell you that my comfort zone, I mean, Casey, you've been seeing what I'm doing on social media and stuff right now. My comfort zone, I am way outside my comfort zone right now, guys, believe it or not, right? I don't do that many webinars. I do in-person speeches. But now I understand this is a time for me to grow too. So I'm just giving you a personal example. Kamal, I can't do anything more than that. But for me, this is the time where you expand outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and one more question before we end. I know it's 2:00 right now, so I want to be respectful of people's times. But
if people want to stay on, I'm happy to stay on for 15 more minutes and ask questions. If they want to jump off, they can jump off. We'll just start running through the chat. Raul says, I've always heard mindset motivation is a lot like taking a bath. You have to do it daily. By the way, Raul, exactly that. And in this, so Raul, I would say two things. One, this isn't an ad campaign. I only have 3,000 followers on, Instagram. I'm a private person, but you can watch my Instagram and you'll see the stuff I do every day for motivation. We'll also send you the replay with that sheet, that slide, which we'll put on the phone again, or not the phone, the webinar. Where was that? That was, okay. There is probably 10 things here. I do a consistent morning routine, Raul. I do some yoga breathing. I do meditation. I do stretching. I'm taking a nature walk after this. I work out a lot. I do journaling. I got my journal with me all the time. By the way, if you come into Innovation Bootcamp, you get this fancy fake leather journal, but it works, right? I've literally, actually guys, you can't see this, but under my laptop, there are 4 full journals like this that I've written in the last year. Journaling, even for 2 minutes, getting your mind on a piece of paper, Raul, is huge. And then I said reading educational books. I'm on Audible. Audible is basically free to make you smarter. So I'm reading Andrew Yang's book about, it's not really political, by the way, Andrew Yang's book on all the big trends coming up. I'm reading something called Alpha Male 2.0 to maximize your hormones. I'm reading the guy from Dilbert's book, which is amazing. So I'm reading those 3 books. I'm reading a couple, I'm not gonna tell you all the books I'm reading, but you DM me, I'm happy to jump in. Cairo Guy says, I know Cairo Guy came in late, so appreciate you staying on. What can we do to keep our employees focused and motivated? Cairo Guy, that's going to be very, very specific. And by the way, I think I can see you right here. How you doing, man? Cairo with a K. I see that on your chest, buddy. So here's the thing. It's very specific for your business, but here's what I can just tell you what I'm doing that's working. So we're doing virtual happy hours. As silly as it is, my friend Allison threw a virtual birthday party. I could not believe it. People stayed on for 2.5 hours on her birthday party. So that means people are liking, I stayed on for an hour, but people are just eating their dinner, drinking their drinks, 25 people for a birthday party. And I guarantee you she got a lot of love from that. What's the difference between that and sitting home by herself? Skykick, I knew I was doing virtual happy hours. We have 250 people, so obviously not everyone's on the phone, but each of the different country heads are doing virtual happy hours, I think, and then different groups, right? Whatever the relevant group is for you. By the way, Chiro Guy, I assume you're a chiropractor, is that right? You can put yourself on mute.
Yeah, he is.
Yes.
So for example, I have a chiropractor here in Park City. I have a Pilates instructor in Park City too. She's doing virtual stretching, which for me is great because I'm hiking every day. You could do the same thing for your clients. What I would do for you, and maybe you're already doing it, is if you have an email list and just send out a video and do a live. And if 5 people join, that's great. Don't think about it as a business thing. Think about it as I'm contributing with my unique gifts and my unique skills, which you clearly have, and you're giving out, because people are not active, right?
Yeah.
We're on this call. We're lucky. We're fortunate. We're thinking about our mindset, but not everybody is. So you be the leader to get people off their butt and doing some basic stretching. And by the way, that's going to make you such a much more valuable resource after this done. I promise you that. Okay. I'm already seeing it for me. I started doing these webinars in Instagram, Facebook Live, just because people you could see they're suffering, and I'm not, because I have been working on my mindset for like 20 years. So I have a little more information than most people do. Doesn't make me a genius. I'm just doing it a little longer, right? And you have too. So you just add that value, even if it's for 5 people for 20 minutes, you're going to change them. And who are they going to come to after this is over in 3 weeks? They're going to come to you, of course. So I would do that. And for your team, like Dr. Cam said, Dr. Cam's very focused on keeping his team happy. So maybe you'll do a virtual happy hour. Maybe you're just calling and checking in. It's that simple. It doesn't need to be something magical, right? Yeah. Does that make sense? Is that helpful?
Absolutely, yeah. And I was on under another account. I wasn't able to log in, and then I was able to log in.
No worries, man. No worries. I just appreciate you being on and answering a question. That's awesome. Casey, what's the next question? We got a bunch in here.
Okay, so we asked, how do you keep the guys motivated? We did the 1% biting off too much, and then there's some thank yous. And then how do you to measure and hold your staff accountable?
I'm going to say that's a tough one, Nima. And the reason why it's a tough one is because of that first heart, which is compassion, because you want to hold them accountable, right? But you always want to be compassionate about their own personal situation, which of course they're not going to tell you exactly their personal situation. Maybe you have a small staff, so you know them very, very well, how they may be, for lack of a better word, suffering during this time. But you're gonna have to really, that's a tightrope for you. And here's what I would say. One thing one of my friends is doing, and she runs, I'm not gonna say the company, but she runs I think she has 900 employees or something in her group, right? And what she's doing is she's having very regular Zoom calls. And by the way, here's the key. She's having the Zoom calls at 4 p.m. East Coast time, because she's based out in New York. Why is it 4 o'clock, right? Because that way, to make sure everyone is on point until 4 o'clock. If you have it at 9 a.m, maybe they go back to their pajamas and don't do everything all day, right? But she's holding them accountable by having an afternoon staff meeting, when normally you do a Monday morning staff meeting. She's doing every other day afternoon staff meetings. And she's looking at them. Hey, are they in their pajamas? And she's kind of like a boss lady. She's like, hey, you show up to this call, you're ready to work, okay? She's like that kind of boss lady. I love her. Her name's Gretchen. And that's how she's keeping her staff accountable. Now, is that everything she's doing? Of course not. But that's one little thing. I would recommend to do a lot of little things than one hardcore thing. Saying, all right, everyone, you got to post in this Google Doc every day exactly what you did, like a boot camp instructor, right? I know I'm called Innovation Boot Camp, but for lack of a better word, be a compassionate boot camp. Do a lot of different things to keep them accountable. But most of all, Nima, you got to keep them motivated and happy. That's the biggest thing. If you keep them motivated and happy, they will naturally be much more accountable.
And it boils back, a lot of that boils back down to what you first said. It's how close the relationship is, and because everyone has a different situation going on right now, at home with their family, with their thoughts, with their finances. So It's really understanding what their pain points are and how you can kind of get through that together.
Couldn't agree more. I'm just looking at the, Ben says, Casey, you're the man. I couldn't agree more. He says, thanks for all the insights. Great stuff.
I want to thank you, Navin, for taking the time to kind of add value to our network and help us all learn some new things. And I've taken pages of notes already here. I look forward to kind of getting into the Innovation Bootcamp with you in May. And I think we've done all the questions now. So we'll sign off now, and then we'll follow up with everyone via email.
Yes. Guys, be safe, stay social distance. Dr. Cam, great to see you, healthy buddy. And everyone, have a great weekend. Thank you, Olya.
All right, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, guys.